Hey everybody, Mac Matsu here. Uh, Back with Marvel Heroes. It's patch 1.3, and now we got Iron Man. And this has got to be like fourth or fifth time I've done this guy. I think they've got him figured out to what they want, anyways. I didn't mind his old iteration. I'll have to throw that out there. I thought it was very useful. Um, and probably got a little bit lost on players with what to do in Midtown because they just didn't realize the devastation of shield shutdown and shield overloads and firing off those missiles. However, Gazillion did, and they did take that away because they knew that was kind of OP. Everyone that was complaining about Iron Man in 1.2, you really didn't know what you're complaining about. You were just playing him all kinds of wrong. He was OP, and if you'd done it, and basically you had to do micro missiles with shield overloads, and you shield overloaded everything, and anything that wouldn't die that way, you just micro missile down, and you waited for it to do it. Yeah, it took a little while, but you could still work some shield overloads in there and shield shutdowns. And I had no problems with Spirit. I, of course, maximized my Spirit. As you can see, I'm sitting at 370 Spirit right now. I'm only level 30-something. So I went for Spirit. I understood the character. And that's that's 367 without the reactor active. I was sitting at a good 4-something Spirit, and I could blow everything up out of the water. It might have taken some time on big mass packs, but the bigger the mass packs were, the more damage I did with that shield overload. And then with the regenerating health shield, it was golden. Good news is a lot of that is still around. They did keep it, so you're still got some regen going. If you haven't noticed, they're working health regen into every single character. That's how important health regen is. If you're having issues, it's because you're not regenerating any of the damage you're taking. You're guaranteed to take damage in these latest patches. Everybody wanted patch 1.2, but everyone's crying they're taking damage. That's what the whole point of patch 1.2 is. So you take damage. You don't take as much damage, but you're taking it much more often, which means you have to offset it by regenerating that health. You either have to have health per kill, health per hit, or health regen. And health regen is real easy to get. They've upped it dramatically on gear, so go ahead and grab a piece. You know, if it's got plus 5,000-6,000 health regen, take it. Use Sabertooths if you got nothing better to do. Sabertooths is really good because plus health and plus health regen, with the way the bell curve works with defense, it's going to make you live forever. I mean, my Iron Man right now, no points spent, is running around at 42.6% less damage taken. And that's pretty phenomenal. I'm happy with that. I haven't even put points in the defenses yet. So, let's just go over all his skills. They changed a lot of different things, so we're going to cover them. I'm going to go right to left as my usual. And we got this wrist rocket. This is actually pretty awesome. It's a lot better than a wrist rocket. This is a nice little missile that hits. Let's rank 5. Let's get rank 1. Rank 1, it does 327 to 377 damage in an AoE. Whatever it hits around it, it does take damage, and it's not super wide, but it's wide enough to hit a few things. And then everything burns for 343 damage twice a second. I like that. It doesn't say how long that burn duration is, but it's usually 3 seconds, 4 seconds, so just assume 3 seconds and you won't cry when it doesn't do it for longer. Then we got micro missiles, totally retooled, cooldown increased, totally nerfed. Damage decreased, projectiles fired decreased. So only thing good about it is it does do a small AoE when it hits, and if you're targeting a mob while firing it, all the missiles will go at that mob, which is kind of an improvement from the old micro missiles, which would just fire and automatically home in. I didn't care because I blew everything up with shield overload, and what was left was things with hit points, and I would just burn them down with the micro missiles. That was my method. Jet boot flight has not changed, just gives you flight. Missile control system is replacing automated missiles. It's got the same tool shape type. Well, to me, that's really a Star Wars radar dish laser beam that they used on the AT-ATs. But this now makes your missiles have increased critical hit chance, and has, starting at a 2% chance, and it doesn't go up that much higher, to fire off an automatic missile that hits for damage, which doesn't get that much higher either. That they should have thought of a little longer. That's not so hot. System reboot, this is a passive. You get a passive defense rating, which is nice. And this is like God mode or Phoenix Rebirth. It seems like every character is going to get this too. So if you die on rank 1 anyways, once every 5 minutes you can die and you'll get resurrected. You'll do a big AoE of moderate damage, and you'll come back to 35% health and life, and you'll be invulnerable for 4 seconds. And it has a passive effect of 299 defense, so it's even better than some of the other ones. So Deadpool worked his way over here. This is pretty awesome. This alone, you know, is a huge improvement to Iron Man. Deployable medic. This is kind of weird. You basically throw this little thing out there and it heals. It does a healing AoE. And actually, it does do a lot of health. I mean, at one point, it does 126 health. Definitely something you want grants plus 20 on at higher level. That's how high the grants are going now. That's awesome. And it lasts 8 seconds with a 10-second cooldown. And it will actually last as long as the cooldown is, or longer. So if you put points into it, it will work. And it does do a lot of health. Something to keep in mind. Then a really cool ability here is Jericho Bombardment. They're calling this the Tech Gadgets. I guess it really is, but it's really a lot of missiles. This is basically calling down a targeted barrage of burst missiles to a location, raining destruction upon your enemy. It does 988 damage twice per second, lasts for 5 seconds, and got a 3-second cooldown. So at least it lasts longer than the cooldown, so you can keep it up on bosses. Tends to be, I think, what they're thinking it will be. It's wide enough that if you know, the bosses in midtowns and everything are kept close, you can hit them all. Wide enough that you can probably hit a couple on X defenses, depending on how your tanks are really staging all your enemies. But on a single target boss, you'll be able to drop it every 5 seconds and love it. Just extra damage. It's like a dot. So let's move over to defense systems. And these are going to be very important too, because we got our all-important defense shield. And these defense shields are working a little differently. It's adding defense, adds shield capacity, still negates 50% of the damage incoming. One of the few things that are still working at percentage-based damage reduction. This is awesome. Remember, I'm running around at 42%. By the time I'm done, I'll be running around at 75% damage reduction. Iron Man is a beast. And this starts stacking very well the more points you put into it. Hypervelocity charge. This is your basic charge, and at the end of the charge for 4 seconds you get 10% attack speed and movement speed. Very interesting one. That's going to be a primary mover. The 10% attack speed is pretty hot. For some builds anyway. Shield overload. This used to be the thing I enjoyed the most. Unfortunately, you pump points into it, and the cooldown that they added to it does not go away anymore. So it still explodes for good damage. And they actually kind of retooled overload and shutdown together, because now you overload and shut it down at the same time and restore part of your max spirit when you do it. And it gets a damage buff based off of your maximum shield capacity. And it costs shield capacity to use. So all that's okay by me now. I'm not going to use it anyways. I will actually use it to restore spirit, and that's going to be the primary use, but you can also get AoE damage when necessary, but it's not going to be needed in my build, and you'll see why at the end of Energy Beams. Then we get this Voltaic Punch. I don't even know what Voltaic means, but it sounds good. It strikes enemies in front of you, rendering them more susceptible to damage. It actually doesn't do that. What it does do is if you crit, you get bonus damage. That's what that does do, and that's pretty nice. Then you get the age-old jet-assisted slam. Hasn't changed. Fly up, slam down, do damage. Not going to be in my build. And then you get this Coolant Blast, which is supposed to synergize with Voltaic Punch. And Coolant Blast is kind of like the channeled attacks where you do the laser beams, but it does very little damage. It kind of goes up a little bit, and it has a chance to freeze things, and it also slows everything it hits. So the slow is automatic, the freeze happens every now and then. The problem is that freeze is only for a couple seconds, and while frozen, when you do your punches, it takes double damage, but it doesn't freeze long enough to get a punch or two off max. So you'll freeze it, oh finally it gets frozen, then you throw a punch. That combination isn't even worth doing just yet. They haven't worked out the right way for that to work, which is why people are wondering how patch 1.3 got released. And then of course we got the whole death from above, fly up, smash the area, blow things up. Cooldown not too terrible. It does go down with points. I don't know. Not gonna make it into my build just because the damage isn't there for the cooldown duration. I mean, it's still 6 seconds for 4,000 to 6,000 damage. I mean, if you're in trouble, I suppose it's great. But again, I'm going to show you something at the end of Energy Beams that you're going to go, yeah, I'd rather do this. And even though it's on a longer cooldown, I don't know. You'll see why I'm saying, because the build's going to work around that. I mean, there's so much AoE. This isn't as useful as it once was. This is way useful. So going to Energy Beams, your first base attack, it does 25% more damage as long as you have an active force field. If you ask me, they should just put the extra damage in there, because the chances of you not running a force field is like slim and none. Maybe 98% of the time yours will be down, right? You're not going to keep it down, you're not going to recast it. There's no cooldown on it. Was there a cooldown? Nope, no cooldown. So, kind of a strange mechanic to work on it. They should have just let it do extra damage anyways. Unibeam, they kind of reworked this. You only charge it up for a second now. And what it does is 25% extra of damage based on maximum shield capacity. So if your shield's capacity is 860, let's say 1,000. I'm going to make my math a lot easier. It does an extra 250 damage, but it burns 250% or 250 points of shield capacity. Not a fan. Repulsor Barrage hasn't changed. Still a fan. This is pretty hot. The new defense system, it works really well. Pulse Bolt hasn't changed. Fires out, explodes. It's got a stun on it, pretty nice. Arc Reactor Enhancement. I forget what this used to be called, but It was some other kind of reactor. Basically, it was spirit. And now it is plus maximum spirit, but also beam damage increased 3% per 100 maximum spirit. So basically right now I'm doing 9% extra damage. With this I'll probably get 12% extra damage with beam attacks, which is alright with me. Channeled repulsors, this hasn't changed, does damage twice a second. Nice wide area. They increased the area, so it's a nice wider swath, and it goes much farther. It's a good thing. Disruptor beams, kind of the same thing. Does pretty good damage, makes things take extra damage, and reduces the damage enemies do. That's kind of new. You know, it's alright. It's standard attack. But the interesting, fun little toy they added is this, the One Of. I'm not sure where they're coming from with this comic thing, but sweep the area around you with powerful micro lasers, decimating your enemies. I like this. Every 30 seconds you can do 8 to 12,000 damage. If you spend points, it does go down. Not sure why it's on a 30-second cooldown. It seems excessive. I want it in my build because, you know, at 9 it's doing 12 to 16,000 damage. That sounds good. It sounds like it's kind of going towards the God Blast, but God Blast you can do every like 4 seconds. Why can't I do this like every, you know, I'd be happy with 5 seconds. This it's doing a third the damage, quarter of the damage, if not less. And I don't know the size of the AoE. Do I have a point in it? No, I don't. So, but it's a fun new toy. And every 30 seconds will probably be pretty useful. Especially X defense, especially mid-towns. But X defense in general, I think it's going to be a little bit handy, just getting rid of all the swath of enemies that come at you. So that's leading me up to the build. And I'm going back to the Death Blossom name because there's a lot of different things going on here. And of course, we gotta maximize this force field. We need it. I mean, look at this at rank 17. It's absorbing 2,115 damage. So it's going to take 4,200 damage to go through it. It's giving me 613 defense, which is going to help me even more. Yeah, can't ask for anything more from a skill. Putting 1 point in shield overload. That's just basically so we can actually get to adaptive defense. Did I not do adaptive defense? Maybe I didn't. Which is basically going to regenerate shield capacity. Anything that hits you will take damage, and you regenerate health. And you restore 5 spirit per second. And I want to mention something. It doesn't say when not channeling anything. So I'm wondering if this is a workaround. I wonder if they tooled it. Because they did release it early. It might have slipped through. Enjoy it while it's there. We'll find out in a sec. But we're maximizing this. Why? Because of that health per second. It's not as good as it was, but the shield regeneration is much better than it was. But we still get the health regen that we want. And it's active health regen. And then we're going to do channeled repulsors. This will be our trash pack killer. This is why we don't need that. This is doing 2,042 damage twice a second. That's this damage. And I don't have to wait 6 seconds to do it. And it's only 14 spirit. It's actually half the spirit. And we're going to do some wrist rockets. Wrist rockets we're going to use against bosses. We do have a highly spirit expensive build here. Just so you know. A Grant's plus 20 in Disruptor Beam or Repulsor Ray, not a bad idea, just to have something to do. But really, we're going to be moving around, so not necessarily important. When we wrist rocket and we get that thing burning, because remember, look at that, it's burning to 1900 damage twice a second. We're also going to drop this down on them, which is burning for 1700 damage twice a second. This is how we're killing bosses. And now we get into some really crazy, what do we pick here's. We got system reboot. We're putting a point in that at least. We got deployable medic, at least a point in that. That's going to heal you when you're getting hurt. Or you think you're going to get hurt. That's the best time of doing it. Obviously you want jet boot flight. Got a lot of missiles going on. Might as well put 1 point into missile control system. That's 5 1-point skills. That's all I got here. But we're still at a loss. I mean, I want this arc reactor enhancement. And I want this the one of. And we got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 skills, 5 skills. 30-second skill. I'm going to put 1 point in to have it, but we got to go with arc reactor enhancement. I mean, look at that. You get tons of maximum spirit, tons of extra damage, and basically your radar. You know, we could split it out and put 10 points into here, but I think the one of or the reactor are ideal choices for grants plus 20s. And then maybe a grants plus 20 here and a grants plus 20 there, because you're not going to get much out of this system reboot. It doesn't get that cooldown down that much, and you don't get that much more maximum health. But the critical chance rating does go up, and you will get like a 5 or 6% chance to get that off. But I would say these two would be, you know, the primary important ones. And you can just retool. So if you get a grants plus 20 arc reactor, just put points in the one of. But that's the build. And it's going to work fairly well for you. It's a standard boss burning build based on everything else out there. Which is kind of funny how they made Iron Man just like everyone else. Oh, you got to put a point here just to make sure you have hypervelocity charge. Hypervelocity charge are very important. That's going to be your movement around, and it gives you a bonus movement and attack speed. Gotta love that. So let's see. That's going to be the killer, and then we want a wrist rocket. Don't need missile salvo. We need Jericho bombardment. Don't need this. What's this? Unibeam. Don't need that. And House Party is still awesome as usual. It kind of gives you better definition of what everything's doing. It's basically killing everything so bad, except the summon duration has gone down, so they nerfed it a little. And what else do I need up there? I gotta keep my shield active. Yeah, I set this up in 2 different key modes. So this is when I'm killing trash, and this is when I'm killing bosses. My shield overload to get me my spirit back when I'm needed. So you can see I'm at 414 spirit. My Unibeam is going to be doing 7, 14, 21, 28% more damage. Or my yeah, channeled repulsor, sorry, not Unibeam. So I'll come over here. And as you can see, it does do a wide swath. I'm using Dr. Octopus's metal. It's probably the best for the build. I mean, this is going to wipe trash to no end. I mean, look at... I am slowly losing spirit, but I'm actually generating spirit because I was correct. This right here is actually restoring 8 spirit a second, even when I'm channeling. It snuck through their radar systems. And then when you're dealing with a... well, I should have that active too. When you're dealing with a boss, what you're going to do is you're going to drop Oops, put up the shield. You fire off your missiles, you drop your radar bunch, fire off a missile, fire off a missile, fire off a missile. When that stops, call down your missile rain again. So even if you got a boss that's summoning things, whoa, I just got sucked out. Sorry, the video just got done editing, just got sucked out. And that's how you're going to burn bosses down, and you're not going to have too much of an issue with Spirit. As you can see, it generates really quick with that passive ability. You're running around, do some charge. You can really hammer in some damage. And that's how you kill the bosses. And then, oops, graphic error. You hammer out trash. And that's your Iron Man. So let's see where we're sitting at. Almost 50% less damage. That's awesome. 11% chance to dodge, kind of low. Some dodge would help. No tenacity, kind of low. You're not really a tank. A lot of attack speed, not that important, but it can help. 22% crit chance, basically, and 1.8% brutal strike. That's coming from the Edge of Infinity. You could swap this out, I suppose, with a Taskmaster and get some more brutal strikes. But everything here is an area power. Area, except for the movement one. So the radius is just awesome. And then the extra damage doesn't hurt, obviously. On the weapon, ideally, I guess Spirit per kill would help, because I really think they're going to nerf that Spirit regeneration as it goes. So I might want to keep one of those on hand. Other than that, plus hit points, plus hit point regen. That's what's important. Hit point regen. This guy is just not geared. He's got old gear for old styles. But that's it. So that's Iron Man in a nutshell with the Death Blossom build. Hope it helps you guys out. Hope you enjoy, and I'll talk to you later.